Hello, everyone. Welcome to an action-packed, exciting, non-stop thrill ride that is ARG Presents. I'm Amigo Aaron, joined by the man that on the Enterprise of Life would be your Ensign Crusher character. I give you the Brent.
Man, just put me in a red shirt and throw me at an airlock. I'm done.
Listen, if you're going to serve aboard any Enterprise, I'm not sure today's topic is the one you want to serve upon. So, thanks for joining us this week. We spun the wheel last week. We made the deal. Few people saw that spin, but by God, we did it. We assure you we did spin it. And this week, Brent, we'll be playing games on the Enterprise 64/128.
Yes. Which is really just the Enterprise 128.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You know, it's like anything. If you can go with a higher number, that's the one you go for.
That's it.
So, you know, I'd heard of this computer before, believe it or not, and I had not ever done anything with it. Did you? What was your experiences before this week with the Enterprise 128?
Absolutely nothing. I did not know it existed, and I am so surprised that there is a fairly thriving community out there involving this machine.
Yeah, it is a surprise. I mean, they're pretty organized too.
Yes.
You know, I have to say the information was not that difficult to obtain. The software was right out there, and they've got an emulator that it hasn't been updated for about 25 years, but it's a competent emulator. Yeah, it works fine. So. Let's talk about the actual computer a little bit here. An interesting looking computer. You've got a little
looks awesome.
You got a little Amstrad color in there. Plus, one of the reasons I remember this computer is because of the built-in joystick.
Yeah,
it's one of these computers that has the built-in. What do you think about a computer with a built-in joystick in lieu of like your arrow keys, Brent?
Well, here's the thing. It's the same thing as when you hardwire your joysticks to your console. If you've got a problem, what are you going to do?
You're boned.
That's it.
You're big time boned. And that's always something that I mean, you can understand in this day and age that when they did that, they thought they were actually providing additional, perks, but it's not necessarily what I would want. So this is another in a long line of these computers that originated in the UK, right about the same time. Now, this thing was released June 23rd of 85, but it had been in the works before 83. It was announced in 83.
Yes.
They had a lot of problems getting this thing out the door. And so, and that right there probably screwed it, because if you've got this thing coming out in 83 or 84, you got something. But by 85, you're in the same year. In 85 was the same year the Amiga 1000 was released, for example. And so that now you're walking into the land of the giants. And so this probably ain't gonna feed the bulldog. Of course, you had two flavors. You've got the Enterprise 64 with 64K, and then you've got the Enterprise 128 with the 128K. So clearly, you know which way to go. This is yet another computer that had a Zilog Z80A in it, running at 4 megahertz. It had graphics that were okay. It could go 672 times 512 with 2 colors, so monochrome. And then most of the games use 256 by 160, 16 colors. That's not hideous, that's not too bad. 3-channel sound, not too bad. It had RGB outputs on it, not too bad there. Printer port, not too bad. External power supply, because that's the way they used to do it back in the day. And of course, that onboard joystick was a delight.
Here's the thing, though, Aaron.
Yeah.
All those stats are pretty amazing for 83.
Yeah.
And pretty horrible for 85.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And when they released this thing in 85, what you've got going on there was just the home computer market was sort of taking a slight dip. You got to think, this is when 85 is right about the time that the market started reloading with like I said, the Amiga 1000 arrived. You also had your Atari ST computers honing into view. And so what that means is you're entering that 16-bit era.
Yeah.
And when you're releasing something like this, you're tardy to the party.
Yeah.
That said, this thing has a pretty decent gaming library. I mean, I was actually pretty surprised.
Absolutely huge.
And a lot of stuff that you would expect to see, on a computer of this era. I mean, big releases. The stuff, I saw plenty of games that I'd seen on like the ZX Spectrum or the C64.
Sure.
And I think this machine would probably fall, right there with those machines. But I wouldn't say. Would you say this is a superior machine to say a C128 or even or something, or or the Spectrum or the Amstrad? I mean, it might technically be better.
I think it's superior to the Spectrum.
Uh-huh.
I think it's superior to the Amstrad.
Really, the Amstrad? I'd say this is probably, to me, this seems like something in the same ballpark.
Pretty equal. Yeah, I think actually pretty equal to the Amstrad.
But I mean, the overall, this machine, and I was talking to Brent before the show. This is one of those machines where you don't get to just double click the ROM and then play the game. You got to get in there and get down and dirty and funky, go to work. And so, we learned a little bit about the OS. And which is, it was a DOS type OS. You're going in there and typing DOS commands, but it did have some shortcut keys and stuff. And it was actually, I mean, it seemed fairly pleasant to deal with, I thought. What about you?
Yeah, Aaron had a little more difficulties getting everything to work on this than I did. I would recommend the EN32 emulator for anyone who is wanting to check this out.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, it wants you to have a directory that it uses as a tape drive. And once you tell it what directory that is, you can't just dump everything into it, right? That won't work. At least the way I was doing it. You put one thing in there, and it reads it just like a tape drive. And then all you have to do is click to start, pick the main file, and the emulator will do everything else for you. So it's pretty convenient. Just know going in that you just can't dump everything into that one file. And everything has to be uncompressed.
It's funny because I didn't use cassette to load my games or yours. I used the disk drive. And that was the way I went. So I didn't have to go the tape route. This thing did have a disk drive. I'm looking over this thing's history, but how many of these things do you figure were made? I've got a number here. There
are so many pieces of software for this thing. It had to have done at least okay. There has to have been a country, and I would say it was Hungary.
There's a lot of Hungarian interest in this particular item. Yeah,
right. So but although that's still not a huge user base, I'm gonna say 30,000.
Well, you're not that far off. Apparently, the first batch of these were made was 80,000, and that was, from what I've read on Wiki here, it's the only batch that was made. So you've got.
I wonder if they sold all those.
I'd say by now they would have. 80,000, not a huge number. This was considered a major flop-roo. I mean, it died a death, I guess is what I'm saying. So as you would expect, but again, they took too long, and when you take that long, that's the problem you're going to have. But I mean, overall, just as a layman who just fooled with it this week, I thought it seemed like a pretty decent little machine, all things considered. I will say, having used. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brent.
I feel as the software for this, because I looked at a few different things, all over the map. I mean, it has some of the worst. Not like they didn't even try, like 2-color garbage, up to some really impressive platforming stuff. The games that we picked, I don't think are highly representative of the system.
I think you're right. And of course, I once again picked my game on which one had the coolest sounding name, because I didn't know anything about these games. I didn't want to. I mean, I could have picked like Zaxxon or something. I wanted to pick something that was I'd never heard of and that was exclusive to the system. And so
that I also wanted to pick something exclusive to the system.
Yeah, and sometimes when you pick something exclusive to the system, it didn't get ported to other systems for a reason.
That's right.
If you know what I mean. So
that is right.
I will say, if you're planning on emulating this, the TOSEC is out there for all the discs. You can get it off archive.org. And I will say, in MESS, I had trouble. And MESS does say hasn't gotten this thing firmly emulated, and it's not lying. I couldn't get the games to start, so I had to go with the emulator Brent was talking about. And that's the one I'd recommend if you want to try these out. And coincidentally, we didn't get any user reviews this week, and I think part of the reason was people were sort of intimidated. Whenever we do these computers, they can get a little wacky.
Yeah.
And so
this is out there.
Yeah, it is. So all that said, we were tasked, Brent, with coming up with the game, and like you said, in a fairly sizable library.
Surprisingly large.
Yeah,
I mean,
surprisingly.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds of games.
Yeah. And we picked a couple. Just put it that way. I will lead the charge this week. I'll be the curtain jerker, Brent. You know me. When it comes to these old computers, I like the cool sounding games. And there is no cooler name in all of gaming than the Devil's Lair. Yeah, the Devil's Lair, Brent. A crazy madcap tangle with Satan himself, old Pitch. Not really, but that's in my mind. So I had to look long and hard to find the liner notes for this, but I found them, and I'd like to read them to you here to give you an idea of what this game is all about. So you are trapped in the Devil's Lair, which you know that ain't good. A creepy labyrinth of caverns filled with deadly traps. You must collect keys to open the chests, which are scattered about the lair. But beware! Running through the lair will drain your energy rapidly. That's true. You will need to eat and drink regularly in the Devil's Lair, mind you, to stay alive.
Plenty of burgers and wine.
It's funny how that works. That is how... What a combination. The Devil's got some eccentric taste in food. And like everything else in this creepy cave, you must take enormous risks to keep going. That is an understatement, my friends. You travel around the lair by using the joystick built into your Enterprise. Jump with the spacebar. And I wanted to mention that part because that seems to be the modus operandi for a lot of these games. The jumping with the spacebar. So that spacebar probably took a beating.
Yeah.
On these games.
Although it's got a nice big space bar, so good for them.
Right. So this game, as far as I can tell, was released on cassette, but at least was collected on disc, if not outright sold on disc. I wasn't 100% sure on that. As you can imagine, Brent, there was not these games weren't exactly what I would call a ton of information on these things, but I dug up what I could.
At least certainly not in our native tongue.
That's right. I had to use Google Translate more than a little bit.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Once I got this game to load, and of course, I was confronted with what I thought looked like an interesting platform game, and I was half right. It is a platform game, but this game. It's funny. Our games are eerily similar, Brent. And they fall into the category of Manic Miner, games that punish you just for loading them and playing them. You will be.
That's right.
You must be hurt, infidel. How dare you load these games? Now you're going to pay, and pay I did, by not even managing to get off the first level of this game. This game.
Well, I don't think that's. You mean you didn't get out of the first screen?
No, I did not get off the first screen of this game.
Wow.
I didn't. I will say, did you?
Oh yeah.
Did you use save states?
No, in this game I didn't. I was able to get to about 8 different screens.
Holy smokes! I don't know. I like to see your secret because I was getting killed. This game answers the question: what if you made a Dragon's Lair but only put in the death scenes? That's what this game would be. Everywhere you take your guy in the Devil's Lair is deadly. I mean, the devil is no joke. This guy's killing suckers at an alarming rate. It starts you out with a bunch of men. You're thinking to yourself, heck, I'm good to go. Everything you touch that's not a hamburger or a glass of wine or a key, you're dead. There's spikes. There's like it looks like what landmines. There's freaking lasers. There's fire. There's knives that stick up out of the floor. Everything you hit can kill you, and I will say it kills you in an amusing way.
Your really well animated.
Yeah. When your guy dies, he doesn't just sort of die. I mean, he straight up gets murdered. He gets killed. He gets stabbed. He crumples up. He catches on fire, and there's a fire animation of him going like, ah! When he hits a bomb, it explodes. Lasers like disintegrate him. It's crazy time all the time.
He actually sinks into the spikes real slow.
Yeah.
A la Mortal Kombat.
I was thinking more like when you get impaled in Prince of Persia. You know, that kind of thing. This game is really tough. And it's also the way it's positioned. You have to jump. I mean, it's just one of those Manic Miner type games where you have to jump directly beside the most dangerous thing in the game every time.
Yeah.
If you are off by 1 pixel, you get killed. That's it. There's a score as an added bonus. Just when you think to yourself, well, maybe I could get through this, there is an energy bar at the bottom. And since you're in the devil's lair, and apparently the devil programmed this, it goes slowly down. So if you don't, like they said in the on the liner notes, if you don't eat or drink before that bar goes down to nothing, you're dead.
Yeah.
So there's none of this. I'm going to stand
around.
There's
no grace period.
Yeah,
you're just dead.
There's no standing around to kind of like figure out how you're going to play it. No, that you have to go. So this is a game where you're going to die hundreds of times in your efforts to get out. Now, all that said, is the game cheap? Yes. Is the game dirty? Does it fight fair? No. But it does play fairly with the controls. I will say that. Now, I can't imagine, by the way, Brent, playing this.
I disagree.
Well, I can't imagine playing this game on a joystick built into your computer. That seems like it. Because what happens when you get mad at a game? What's the first thing? You chuck that joystick across the room. And I can see someone picking up the Enterprise and pulling a Bane, you know, like on Batman, just lifting it high in the air and then breaking it over their knee. Because that's what I would want to do. But in terms of using just an emulated joystick to play this, which is what I did, I thought it controlled well. I mean, you have to. This is a game that it's not bound by. One thing you've got to remember when you play this is that you can do things you normally wouldn't think you could do. For example, you're sliding down like a fireman pole. All right, you can jump off the pole. Most of the time, you can. Yeah. You're going down like a slide trap. You can jump off the trap. Stuff like that, you can actually get away with. It'll let you have the freedom because you sort of have to do that stuff. Yeah. And I think part of this game is figuring out how to avoid these death traps in an obvious way. Now, some things, no amount of dexterity or joystick prowess is going to let you avoid. You just have to time it. And I'm talking like the lasers and the fire. You just have to not get. You have to, and the fire flashes at an alarming rate, doesn't it, Brad?
It is.
I mean,
Fast.
It's really tough to avoid. And those are the parts of the game that I hate the most. I don't mind the death traps and all the spikes and the landmines and the electrical platforms. We don't want to leave those out where your guy gets shocked to death. They're everywhere. I don't mind that stuff, because you can sort of avoid those. But the fire is so hard to time that really, I didn't like that. I can say that.
My problem's not the fire.
All right.
My problem is, since you are continuously losing health, you can't stop and think about going through the fire. And when you can't stop, because the fire is probably the hardest obstacle to avoid. And when you cannot stop and center yourself and wait for your opportunity to go, because your health bar is depleting that quickly. I mean, it's insanely how fast it goes out of health. And there aren't nearly enough items to pick up to regenerate your health.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than getting well into the level and dying, and you're like, what happened? You're like, well, that bar went away. We should also mention on the first level, there's also the old disappearing floor into the spike routine. That's right behind the fire or across from a landmine. You get the point here. If you're not watching this at home, I would look this up. It is double deadly.
Yeah,
Now,
well,
when you
and
get, I'm
it's
sorry.
actually it's unfairly hard.
Yeah.
Because your controls, while they're okay, they are not precise because if you are in between steps, you cannot jump. He will take one more step before jumping.
Well,
And
I
the
mean,
reason why that's a problem is there are so many traps. I mean, they're on a platform where you can walk maybe 5 steps or take 2 jumps.
yeah.
There are at least 2 hazards. And it makes it so you have to be precise, and that half step you have to take before you can jump again will almost certainly get you killed.
Well, you have to sort of build that into your mindset when you play. You know, that becomes, it's sort of like in games where guys have momentum when they turn. You can't control it. You just have to sort of tell yourself, well, okay, there you go. This game is a sort of flip screen, but you can actually walk. I mean, there's other screen that you can go to. Your goal is to get a key and then unlock a chest ultimately to get up to defeat that level. Difficult. I was able to get the key a few times, and I was near the chest. It's just that combination of the fire, the landmine, and the disappearing floor. I just couldn't get around it, man. I tried. I must have played this game 1,000 times, and I just couldn't get past it. I mean, it does remind me of Manic Miner in that category. It's one of these games that you just have to. That's what they just make you play it and play it till you got the level memorized. And I will say one thing about a game like this is, you actually memorize the level. You don't have any choice, do you, Brett?
Yeah.
It's just like a Dragon's Lair. I made the same comparison when I played Manic Miner before. In Dragon's Lair, there's one right combination of moves, or you die. Right? That's exactly the same way it is in these. There's no like, hey, I'm going to take this my own way. You do it. You have to do it perfectly, and you have to do it the same way that they want you to. There's no cute way around it, and that makes it a very difficult game until you figure out that path. Now, so there's not much you can do about it.
Real quickly, the sound on this, they're all beeps and boops.
Yeah. Which is funny
not,
because it doesn't need to be that way. I was kind of confused.
Not great. The animation is very fluid. The game is fast.
Yeah, it is.
It is crazy fast. I would not bother learning an Enterprise emulator to play this game. If it's set up on someone's system already and you could just sit down and play it, sure, give it a look. But it's a game you have to spend hours on learning, and it's not good enough to do that.
Yeah, well, this is one, if you like Manic Miner and you want another challenge. I mean, I will say this game seemed a little more, the levels I saw, of course I only played the one, but the ones I saw, they seem, this seems like it's going to be a little more. I mean, Manic Miner is a platform game, but it's also, it's like its own crazy game of absolute death. This is a lot like that. So I mean, if that's your cup of tea, go for it. I should mention that this is a game that from a company that we've actually looked into before, Brett. They seem to pop up quite a bit. That Laura Seals, which I believe were based in France, they released this in '85. Yeah, French company. We touched on them before back in the day, Brett. They did a lot of stuff on the Thompson, if you'll recall, which we covered a long time ago.
Well, you can tell this is a well-programmed game. I just don't think the level design is good.
Yeah, and I
think it's overkill.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that. I couldn't find any reviews on this stuff. That's not true. I found one guy reviewing this stuff in Hungarian, and he was not overly impressed with Devil's Lair because it was too hard. So, and I'm gonna agree with him on that one.
Yeah,
difficult game. Only play if you want a extremely hard challenge.
Painful challenge.
So, with that game out of the way, again, me and Brent we never talk about what games we're going to pick until after we pick them. Very rarely. So, and the only times we ever do it's when we're asking if that game's going to be allowed. I usually have to run a game past Brent. Can I do this crazy thing? Brent will be like, no. But this week we did not discuss these games, and so Brent, of his own volition, decided to pick something I would consider pretty similar to the Devil's Lair. Brent, what do you got?
I went with Jack's House of Cards.
Jack's House of Cards.
while similar in tone, that's where the similarities end. This where Devils had nice smooth animation and good graphics. Jack's House of Cards is not that way. It has very blocky graphics, very colorful, and you can tell what everything is. But it's very more ZX Spectrum style blocky graphics. In House of Cards, and Aaron will disagree with this, but this is the direct Hungarian translation of the jacket based on the first release of the game. It says, "Poor Jack wants to build a card castle. To do this, you need as many cards as you need to collect in a maze. Of course, there are plenty of dangers lurking in the way." So there you go.
Now, if I may,
Sure.
since I downloaded the tape jacket for this, and again, me and Bert were discussing this before we went on the air. The jacket for this and that I read is totally different. So here's the story on it. All right, Jack, the Queen of Hearts has promised you her undying love and her heart, of course, if you can collect the missing aces. The bad news is that they're hidden in the creepy House of Cards and guarded by all sorts of hazards, from electric force fields to crushers, from crumbling platforms and pathways to all sorts of monsters. So there you go. That's more or less what that says. That's a better story than yours. The make a House of Cards story. Trust me, who wants to make and live in a House of Cards?
Jack.
I mean, if you're going after the Queen of Hearts love, I'll buy that. You'll do a lot of stupid crap for love. You'd have to be an insane lunatic to do this, to build a House of Cards. Carry on.
Aaron, I actually want you to give your synopsis of the game first, because I'm going to go on a tangent and there's not going to be any stepping in.
Okay,
so tell
great.
me what you thought of this game and how far you got into it.
I didn't get far. I can tell you that. Much like the Devil's Lair, I couldn't get off the first screen of this game. This is a basic game. We should mention that. But I mean, for a basic game, there's a lot going on. I mean, they're not kidding when it says force fields and creatures and crumbling stuff. You're jumping over what I assume are spikes. They look more like, well, like, let's say bras. So they look like to me.
They're certainly spikes.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could ever.
The rounded top is what it changed my mind. But anyway, in all honesty, this game was so difficult that it drove me bananas, and I had to really focus in. I played this one second, so the Devil's Lair had sort of honed my baloney skills at these certain death games. But it's one of those games where you don't know what you're doing. So at the very beginning, can I pick up these? They kill me. Okay. Jack jumps like he's on the moon. I mean, and plus, whenever you jump, you don't just jump. It's got an accompanying noise, all right? And most games have a jump noise, do-do-do-do-do. It's a little, not this. This long, drawn-out thing. And you hear it over and over and over. And after a while, you just want to rip out your own ears. The way Jack jumps, I mean, one thing about him, this guy's got great height.
He's got ups, yeah.
Yeah, Jack can go. But the problem is, if you've got to learn to control these jumps early on. This is another game we have to have sort of pixel perfect jumping. And early on, I would make the jump, but I would keep going. I would die. You have to sort of stop the jump button right when you get to the platform. It's strange. But I mean, I've got competent at jumping. The problem with this game is it's another game that's really hard. I don't think it's as hard as the Devil's Lair, but I mean, I didn't get any further, so I guess I can't say much about it. But you are picking up these cards. At least on the first level, there are these flashing ace monsters that try to kill you. What got me on this one was the floor. Jack can't take fall damage. He can fall a little ways, but if he falls too far, he dies.
Yeah.
He dies a lot. Much like in um, Devil's Lair, you also get a bunch of guys, so it doesn't screw
Well,
you.
5.
Yeah, well, I mean, 5's a bunch, I think. But no, did I like this game? I would say no. Did I appreciate the effort in basic? Yes. I thought it was, for a basic game, I thought it was pretty darn slick, frankly. But it is really tough, and too tough for me. There you go. My synopsis.
Okay. So let's talk about what Jack House of Cards is and what it isn't. First of all, like Aaron said, the jumping in this game is very awkward. It is very long and very high, but your angle of up and down is small. So you go up at a very small angle to a very high height, and then you come down at that same angle. So that makes jumping very awkward. Instead of jumping 1 or 2 steps before what you want to jump over, you will literally have to jump 9 or 10 steps. Okay? So that try to visualize this for those listening at home. You have to get used to that. And it is a very hard thing to get used to. The game has 9 levels, and using save states, because I didn't have the time to learn every level to the point where I could just go and go and go. Using save states, I made it through all 9 levels. I was cheated, though, because the last level can't be completed. You collect all the cards, and after you collect all the cards, you have to tag basically this ending post. And to tag the ending post on level 9, you have to fall farther than your man can take damage. So when you fall to get it, you die. The level design on this is all over the map. Levels 1 and 2 are so difficult, especially for starting levels, that almost no one's going to ever get past them. Okay? That's frustrating. That's really bad game design. But levels 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all very nice. They're a challenge that is acceptable without being so over the top. And then the last few levels are stupid crazy again. This game, to me, is a very... it shows its age of the time, where I think these programmers were able to get something on the screen that looked appealing, but had no concept of how to build a level or how to do game design. And I think this is something that was very prevalent back in the 80s especially, where you get these kids, teenagers who are gifted in the realm of code, but just don't have any concept of what makes a good game. And I think this falls squarely into that mark, because the game itself, the jumping mechanic's really strange. And I actually like the going up and down sound. I really enjoy it, actually.
Good thing.
I played this game for 4.5 hours.
Oh.
And most people are going to load this up, and they're going to play it for literally 5 minutes, because it's slow and it feels weird. Although some levels are very peppy. Like levels, I think 3, and especially like 6 and 7, you move at twice the speed as you do on the rest of the levels. I guess it's just because there's less stuff going on. I don't know. I'm not a programmer. I don't know how that stuff works. But I am amazed that if you take the time to play this, and I don't recommend it, because most people don't want to sit through this. It's a chore. But if you take the time and respect that someone put in the effort to get this game on the screen, it's very rewarding. What's not rewarding is to think about how awesome this could have been if this guy or girl, I don't know who programmed this game, it was released by Romtech Software Limited. But if someone would have been by their side and said, this level's really difficult, and it's the first level, we probably need to tone this down and let people get into the game more. This could have been a really enjoyable experience. The colors are great. The graphics aren't great, but it's in basic, like you said. Everything looks like something. It's all relatable. I really enjoyed this game. I was very, very frustrated that I could not complete the last level, or what is presumed to be the last level. And it kind of robbed me of my ending. But I really enjoyed this game.
You know, I can't. You reminded me of me a bit, because again, I go back to me and Bo have tried Jet Set Willie and Manic Miner, and I got into a zone when I was playing Manic Miner, and it was both the games we picked today were very similar to that, and
yeah,
the games of this era. And this is a game I think that saw this other games and was because Manic Miner is sort of the big one, but these are kind of, I wouldn't say clones, but they're following in the same footsteps. Games of this era, I always think to myself, okay, this is sold to someone who's probably getting one game that month. And this is a game where you can sit around we've both been there where you only have a few games, and you sit around and you just play whatever you've got over and over and over. And so I can absolutely see someone, there's a certain, when you finish a level in a game like this, there's a certain amount of glee you can get that's hard to replicate playing anything else. And you've really a real sense of accomplishment when you I remember I couldn't get past the first level of Manic Miner to save my life, and I tried it. Finally, after hours and hours of toil, I managed to get past it. And much like your game, from what you're saying, once you get past the first level, you can actually knock off the next couple levels, and have a chance to get at least 4 or 5 levels in. But these games they don't give you any breaks, and they're hard on purpose to try to hose you. And so if you're into that sort of game, this is a perfectly fine game. And like I said, for a basic game, there's a lot going on. Now, if it's slow, so you have to. You would think that would make it easier, but it doesn't, does it? I mean, really, if you sped it up, it would probably be just as hard. I don't think it would be easier at all, and I don't think it would be harder. I think it'd be just about the same. This game has a certain cadence you play it at. The sounds, of course, are hideous, but which I can't figure that out, considering this thing could have good sound. I don't know why it doesn't on these games. But a basic game, I guess I can understand it. But yeah, overall, do I like it? No. Would I play it again? No. But I do understand where they were coming from when this got made. So there you go.
I think if someone was helping with level design on this, because the core elements are there, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different things. Also, if you do ever plan on playing this, know that if you hold up on the joystick and hit the jump button, you will jump straight up. That is an absolute requirement, even on the first level.
Yeah, you have to do that one.
I really appreciated this game, but it made me so frustrated that I couldn't complete level 9, and it made me sad because someone had put in the time to get so much on the screen, and just level design made it unplayable for 95% of its audience.
It's a shame you didn't record your play, because there are no on either game. And really, you should probably go back and do this, Brent, because neither one of these games have a play on YouTube where anyone gets anywhere.
Yeah, I know.
And I made videos that were, but I didn't use them because they were I was dying just like they did. So I was like, well, I'll just use these. I would love to see you put something together to at least show people some of these other levels, because it might be kind of interesting and fun.
You know what else is fresh in my head? I might try to do that.
There you go. You know what else is interesting and fun, Brent?
Me?
Ha ha ha! No, it's the wheel.
Oh, yeah.
All right, it's time to spin the wheel. There was no edit there.
Seamless. Now everyone's going to think, well, they just spun the wheel till they got what they wanted.
I forgot to load the wheel. I'll admit it. So, Brent, this week we've added, as our retro rewind piece, the Atari Jaguar. Roar! That's one of the first shows you did, wasn't it? Was a Jaguar?
Yes.
And then we've also added a new Brent piece, the Commodore CD-TV. the CD-TV, Brent. That'll be fun.
You
Are you ready? Oh, Brent, tell them about the locks.
Due to the loss of 3 shows, with John taking on a more demanding job role, we have locked in the TRS-80, the Atari 1200 XL, and the Spectrum. If they are spun and chosen, they will not be removed from the wheel, and we will just spin them again next week.
That's right. Okay, are we ready?
We are.
You want to make a prediction?
It is Socrates time.
Socrates. All right, that'd be great. I know where we can get one. The heck of a mighty spin. And the winner is... what is the winner? It's the Fujitsu Micro 7. What is that?
Get a week off, can we?
The Fujitsu Micro 7?
I don't know,
What the hell is that? That's on you.
I know, that's not one of my pieces.
The Fujitsu, okay. Well, so, next week, Brent, we will be playing games on the Fujitsu Micro 7. That should
Hopefully we will be playing games for the Fujitsu Micro 7.
You've done it again, Brent. You told me these new pieces were going to be dynamite. My God, you weren't kidding.
But that was an old piece.
Well, it's not that
been
old.
On the wheel for months.
Well, not anymore. It's off the wheel now. So, Brent, just a quick shout out to all of our good buddies that are supporting us on anchor.fm/ARG-presents. If you want to slide a buck or two our way, we have all of our shows up on Anchor.
Slide us $10.
Yeah,
we love it.
The Anchor is a good spot because it lets us hold every show we've ever done. I mean, I guess that's good. If you want to go back and listen to our shows and critique them, as much as it pains me to say this, if you would be so kind to leave us a review on iTunes. These suckers still have the monopoly on podcast reviews, and we are literally bending the knee to Apple. We would appreciate it if you could give us a little love. You're repeating
all the stuff that they're going to hear in just a moment. No need to do that.
Oh, good point. I like to get it out of my system, man. Hey, I'm also going to thank BarkBit for the song and for the
Yep.
I did that for years. You can't just turn that off, man. You got anything you want to say to anybody?
I'm going to say hello to a couple lurkers in the chat, like Bristoler Rich or Bristoler Itch. Let's see, Hamo1 lurking there with us. We got a little bit of Lurks and a Z9K9 lurking in chat today. And then for some of our chatters, we got Duncan Styles, we got Roushy, MSX, we got Buck Owens, Duncan Styles, Picard is in chat. That's a lot of letters. AZTOCK dog. We got Mitz. We got my lovely, lovely wife, Del Morte 78, and several others way up there in the old chatteroony.
I think Paul was in here. We had a good group today. We appreciate y'all coming out. One thing we should mention, aside from the fact that you can listen to all of our shows on the lovely Anchor, is that as we close the show each week, Brent has put together an elaborate arcade presentation featuring all of our supporters, and if you chip in, you are featured alongside these luminaries. And also, what makes it more fun for me is that Brent has to go to reproduce an elaborate new video. So anytime someone pitches in even a buck, that means Brent's got to go to work, which I love that.
Although the Buck folks are going to get grandfathered in. We might have to change that after a while.
No, never. In fact, 1 penny gets you on.
No, it has to. The lowest is $1.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for coming out. Next week we'll be doing, what did I say it was? The Fujitsu Micro 7. That's what we're going to be doing next. I had to look it up again because it's so obscure. Thanks for coming out, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. Until then, Micro 7.
Have a good one. Thanks for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the episode. We'd like to say hello to all of our YouTube subscribers, as well as all of our Twitch followers. We want to say a special thank you to Duncan Stiles, who does all of our awesome Vectric graphics, and to BarkBit for writing our incredible closing theme. Would you like to help keep ARG spinning for as little as $1 a month? You can do so at anchor.fm/ARG-presents. Help keep us spinning. Just like these fine folks. John Deckman, Chris Foles, Frodo NL, Gary Heather, Anthony Purvis, Graham W. Vetke, John Schaller, Terry Howard, Hermsky, and Retro Algae. Don't want to explain another credit card bill? That's okay too. You can help us by leaving us a positive review on Apple iTunes and Spotify. Have an idea you'd like to add to the wheel? You can contact us at argpresents@mail.com. ARG films live on Twitch every Sunday, 9 a.m. EDT. Hope to see you there.